Jess, and welcome to video number 10 of our 30-day Learn to Sew challenge. Today's video is all about how to choose different fabrics for your projects. With a wide range available in stores and online, it can be difficult to choose and know the differences between the different types of fabrics. A great place to start is to look at the backside of the pattern that you've chosen to make. So normally the pattern will make suggestions on types of fabrics that are best suited for that project, but it still can be super overwhelming. And perhaps you've fallen in love with a certain type of fabric that you want to use and are wondering if it's suitable for that project. Some fabrics may be tempting to use because of their designs or texture, but keep in mind their durability and weight. Oftentimes, it's the fabric selection and the interfacings that can make or break a project. First, I'm going to talk about the types of fabrics, then the types of fibers fabrics are made from, then the weight and drape of the fabric, and lastly, some shopping tips for how to buy fabric. There are three main types of fabrics based on their construction, which are wovens, knits, and non-wovens. Woven fabrics are made by weaving individual threads together to create the material. They will fray when the edges are cut, and woven fabrics don't have a lot of stretch to them, which makes it a great option for beginners because the fabric will be less likely to move or shift as you sew with it in your machine. So some examples of woven fabric are cotton, linen, canvas, denim, and flannel. Knits are soft, stretchy, and flexible fabrics such as jersey and spandex. The edges will not fray when they are cut, so they make project construction a little bit more easier, but since they have a stretch to them, it's a little bit more challenging for beginners. Non-woven fabrics are made from bonded or felted fibers, and the edges will not fray when they are cut. So these materials are often a little bit thicker to sew through, have heavier weight, such as cork, faux leather, vinyl, and Craftex. Of course, I'm just touching on the very broad terms, and there are certainly more types of fabrics within each of those categories, but I just wanted to tell you the three main basics that you can look for and get you started, and you can certainly dive in to more of the specific types of fabrics within each category if that's something that interests you. Each type of fabric has its own characteristics such as breathability, comfort, weight, drape, care, shrinkage, absorbency, and heat resistance. The next thing to consider when buying fabric is the actual material that the fibers are made out of. And there are three different types of fibers. There's natural, synthetic, and semi-synthetic. So natural fibers are harvested and then turned into fabric. Synthetic fibers are manufactured and they're completely man-made. And then you may have guessed it, the semi-synthetic fibers are usually a blend of natural and synthetic fibers. Otherwise, it could be a natural fiber that is manufactured and has some synthetic properties. So when it comes to choosing the material that's right for you, there's a couple things to consider. How do you feel ethically about the fabric? And do you have any allergies to synthetic or natural fibers? Also, you want to have the actual feel and drape of the fabric in mind, and what do you want for the end results? Now let's talk about the weight and drape of fabrics. So the weight is the thickness and the density of the fabric, and the drape is how the fabric hangs. So you have to consider, how durable do you need your project to be? Is it a lighter weight garment or a heavy duty backpack? And you'll also want to look at the pattern and see the interfacing and stabilizers that are used. Depending on the weight of the fabric, you may have to add more interfacing or even eliminate some interfacing and kind of divert from the pattern itself. And also consider your sewing machine. Is your sewing machine going to be able to handle sewing through multiple layers or thickness of the material that you decide to go with? And actually feeling and touching the fabrics is a huge help in deciding whether or not that fabric will work for your project. So shopping local is always a great option. And lastly, I want to share some shopping tips with you. So first I want to talk about how fabric is sold. Most of the time, fabric is sold by the yard or by the meter. And some higher end fabrics are even sold by the inch or by the square inch. Another thing to consider is the width of the fabric. There are various standard widths. So your quilt weight cottons generally are sold on a bolt that is 42 inches wide. Fleece is about 60 inches wide, and other materials such as cork fabric go up to 27 or 54. So feel free to ask the clerk or look in the description on the website to see what the width is to start. So for example, if you're purchasing a piece of fabric that is 42 inches wide and you get a 1 yard cut, then you'll receive a piece that's 42 inches wide or tall by 36 inches long. So you're always going to be purchasing the length, and then the widths are a set standard that it is on the bolt. And you can certainly buy partial amounts, so if you only need a 1/4 yard, 1/2 yard, or a continuous piece of 2 yards, 5 yards, then that is an option as well. You just have to consider your project and if you need extra fabric. My next tip is to look at the end of the bolt for information about the fiber content or possible shrinkage. Some fabrics tend to shrink and others don't shrink at all. So if it's a material that you plan to pre-wash, such as a fabric for a quilt or a garment that you don't want to shrink, then you'll need to get some additional yardage to account for that shrinkage. And my last tip is to pay attention to the direction of the print. You may have to get some extra fabric so you can fit all the pieces that you plan to cut and make sure that the print is going in the correct direction that you want it to. This was a load of information, but don't worry, I've created a free printable for you to have on hand when you go shopping for your fabrics, so there's no need to stress. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do by clicking the button below. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's to not feel overwhelmed when shopping for fabric. Don't be afraid to find a clerk to help guide you through the store and ask questions, or even ask a friend to go along with you for support and extra opinions. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!